Learn how to survive and thrive in youth ministry by utilizing the Youth Ministry Survival Guide. Hey y'all, my name is Gabriel Hernandez, and I'm going to be doing a video book report on the Youth Ministry Survival Guide handbook. So first thing that I thought was pretty interesting that the book pointed out was how easily one can actually get burnt out as a youth pastor or youth minister. Not only did it point that out though, but it did say that you're not the only one. So if you're a youth minister or youth pastor out there who's struggling and right now you're having a difficult time and don't know if you want to continue, know that you're not the only one. And the book pointed out some really good reasons on why to continue youth ministry, and one of those is that the joy of watching young people grow up, and also as you continue to do it, it does lower your stress level, and the joy of being able to do something that you're good at, because the more you do it, the better you're going to get. One of the really neat things that pointed out that as Christians, youth Christians, they have different assets that their peers do not have. Some of those assets are things as, being less sexually active, a less chance of suicide. They will drink less, and they will also do less drugs. And overall, they're going to feel better about themselves. There's a less risk of committing suicide. So by having a strong youth group, not only do you actually, allow these youth in your group to actually grow spiritually, but you're also having an impact on culture. Now, the second thing that I would like to point out is they talked about conflict and how there's different categories of individuals that, they actually did a study that youth pastors have conflict with. It either causes them to resign or to get fired. And the first one's a senior pastor, and the survey conducted, about 49% either got fired or resigned because of the senior pastor. The second one was youth, or actually church leadership, and then after that it was parents and kids. Church leadership was about 46%, and parents was about 15%, and kids was 4%. There's different reasons in these different four categories of why someone may get fired or resign. That first one being the fact that that senior pastor, you might have a different philosophy and how you see the youth group going, or it could be senior pastor having an insecurity. And then the last one's maybe you have a new pastor, so he's going to bring on a new staff. When dealing with church leadership, well, the church leadership is usually going to follow that senior pastor and kind of what the direction that he's moving in. And when it comes to dealing with parents, parents like to receive their kids in one piece, and sometimes as youth ministers, we don't think about those things, and kids tend to talk about things that happen on church summer camps and things like that. So if we're not making sure that their kids are in a good environment, the parents will definitely find out. And then of course the kids, the book showed some different examples of how some youth ministers have actually had inappropriate relationships with kids, and that caused them to get fired. Not only that, but you're going to go to jail. So those are things to be looking at, different four categories. What I really did like about what the book said was that not only did it point out these different categories that you'll have conflict with, but it also talked about different ways on how we can actually build those relationships, to have good, strong relationships with our senior pastors, those church leaders, parents, and kids, so that it'll be a good environment for everybody. We can continue in ministry and do what God's called us to do. So it said you really need to take into three things. We know it starts with God's grace, but we have to be able to understand those individuals. We also have to be able to have integrity within ourselves and to build bridges. Now, when it comes to understanding senior pastors, we have to understand the different type of ministry philosophy. How does that senior pastor see the youth ministry going, and how do we as youth ministers see that youth group going, so that we can make sure that ultimately we reach the end state, and that's spreading the gospel and having people come to know Christ, young people serving the Lord, watching them grow up and living lives like Jesus did. The second thing is that integrity within ourselves. We have to know that our senior pastors are in charge, and that They're in authority. God ordained them and placed in a position of authority, and we're to submit to them. That no one in the congregation is ever to talk bad about our senior pastor. Should we ever hear it, we should stop it right away. And, there's always something good to find in everyone. So only speak good things about your senior pastor. And then building bridges. We can always encourage our senior pastors. They have a lot going on as well. So we can either write them notes, pray with them, maybe spend a weekend with them and just praying and walking around together, praying in the community, praying in the neighborhood and stuff. So do things to bridge gaps. Be content with where you're at, and just have overall good communication. When it comes to parents, we have to understand parents as well. Parents have a lot of anxiety for their children. They want their children to really have 5 things. I thought this was kind of cool that the book pointed out about parents. And that first thing is, they want to be able to understand their kids and themselves. The second thing was they want to have a close family. The third thing was they wanted to see their kids behave morally. And the fourth thing was they want their kids to have a sense of shared faith with them as well. And then that fifth and final thing is they want to have access to outside help. And this is where you come in as a youth pastor and a youth minister. They want your help. They want you. They want your advice as well. So partnering with parents to be able to minister to their kids is, where we come in. So we need to understand where parents are coming from, that they do want our help. Having that integrity piece means, hey, when we say we're going to end a youth group night, let's try to end it on time. If we say we're going to have them back from an event, let's try to have them back on time. Let's have integrity about, that we're going to end things when we say we're going to do them. We're going to have their kids back when we say we're going to have them back. And then building bridges with parents, we want to act like an adult. We want to make sure that we're actually acting like an adult and behaving ourselves. One good thing that this book pointed out was that, as a younger youth minister, young youth pastor, you may not think kind of like the parents do. So it's good to, if you're going to get invited to their house, dress appropriately and conduct yourself professionally. And, that's one way how we can bridge those gaps. And understanding kids, the book talked about how the kids are still developing. They have this thing, I guess, in the front of their brain that's still developing. And this actually gives them the ability to think and make plans about the future that allow them to make faith more than a hand-me-down from their parents. And this development process with girls takes place roughly around the age of 12 and boys around the age of 14. So by understanding that they're still developing will help us to be able to be patient with them. Stay tuned for part 2.